Hello there and welcome to Community Life. Here we talk with the community experts about their life journeys and how they came into the community world. And today we have a conversation with Max Rothery, a huge community ambassador who gut feels people, VP of community at one of the largest investor communities, Finimize. Hello, Max.
Hello.
Tell me, please, how do you find time to tweet?
You know what? That's a really good question. Um, it's a good question because actually, when I started, I didn't have the time. So I would use my Sunday afternoons. I would keep notes throughout the week, and I would use my Sunday afternoons to try and curate and practice and get in good habits. And then after a while, it becomes easier. So now I spend a few minutes before I write a tweet, whereas before it was a long time.
Do you reread your tweets before posting them or just type and tweet?
I used to a lot. I used to practice and then reread them, rewrite them, see what works, see what is valuable. But now I shoot from the hip.
Okay, since you already mastered it, let's start from the beginning. Tell me about your parents. Who are they?
My parents, they're great people. I've actually got four parents. So my parents were divorced when I was very young. And that meant that, from the age of like 2 or 3, I just had four parents. So I guess that's kind of different to other people, but yeah, they're great. Super easygoing, super fun, cool people.
When do your parents call you using your full name, Maximilian?
When do they do that? Well, so they normally do it when they're trying to wind me up because my full name is Maximilian Michael Socrates Rothery. And I got married recently, and
congratulations.
It felt like it was the longest build up to a joke ever. But when you get married, the person the registrar has to read out your full name like 4 or 5 times. And there's like 100 people there all laughing at my name, and I've never seen my parents be so proud of themselves.
Oh, that's a really fun experience. And do your wife ever call you using your full name?
No, very rarely. Very rarely.
What is the occasion for its rarity? What
again? Normally to try and get my attention, or wind me up. Normally.
Cool. Okay, let's move to yourself. Tell me a little about your childhood. So, from what age do you remember yourself?
Pretty young, I guess. Yeah, I guess like 2, 3. I remember. Yeah, my childhood was very relaxed. I had a lot of freedom to do whatever I wanted. So I've always had a lot of fun. As long as I can remember, I've always done whatever I wanted and had a lot of fun.
Who gave you this freedom?
My parents. They were very. So my dad, in particular, is a big believer in you following your own path and doing whatever the hell you want and not wasting any time on anything that isn't what you want to be doing. So quite an extreme, actually. Like thinking back, it was quite extreme how much he was just very, very adamant that from a young age, I should know what I'm going to do and go and do it.
Tell me about these situations, at least one of them.
So, I mean, I would put part of it down to why I found school frustrating and boring. It's like every time I go home and I speak to my dad, he's always like, well, just, because I guess one of the underlying principles was like, just question everything. And when you're taught to question everything, going to school every day and being like, why, like this is 10 years of my life. Why am I not setting myself up for things that I'm going to spend the rest of my life on? So that's an example of where I would always find shortcuts so that I could spend time on things that I actually enjoyed. Yeah.
How did you learn to ask questions?
If you ask my wife, she probably would say that's one of my worst, one of my biggest weaknesses. How do you learn to ask questions? I don't know. I guess in community, you realize that that's the only way. And I also think when you start to get to the point in your career where you have to lead people, again, you realize it's the only way to get anything, get any kind of buy-in or get any kind of build any kind of trust is to ask good questions.
What are the good questions for you?
Well, I think anything, so you get, if you were trained in it, they always say open questions. But I think anything that leads you to an honest answer, and that normally means, getting through people's stock responses and just going deeper on why. It's interesting that you mentioned my name. So this is what Socrates built his career on, was being the philosopher who just continued to ask why and why and why and why. And you have the product building philosophy as well of asking 5 whys until you get to the point. So I find that useful.
Did you irritate your school teachers a lot?
I'm sure I did. Probably for that same reason of just continuously asking why.
Did they ever told you that?
Did my school teachers ever tell me that I irritated them? They did at the time. I think they were pretty honest with me. said we've got other things to focus on. But I get, I haven't thought about it in this way, but I guess it all ties together, right? If I'm interested and engaged in something, I'm sure I was the best student in the class. And if I wasn't interested and engaged, I was pretty hard to convince that I should be spending time and win round.
Name please one subject where you were interested and one where you were not.
Yeah, so I loved philosophy. There was one thing that I really, really loved. Because it was answering all of the questions. Well, it didn't answer any questions, but it gave you the frameworks to think through some of the hard problems that you wonder when you're going through your teenage angst periods. And then what are the things I hate? I've never enjoyed things that I'm not very good at. So anything that was overly analytical and data driven, like maths and science, I found pretty mundane, to be honest.
Did somebody ever told you that you have to practice those stuff that you don't like to like it?
Not really. not really. I mean, I've always been overconfident. If there's one trait in my personality that's been true since as long as I can remember, I've always been overconfident in what I was doing. So which makes it quite hard to approach and convince. So I don't think so.
Was there a situation when this overconfidence led you to some troubles?
Probably every day. Probably every day.
What was the last time? What was the last situation?
Well, I mean, my life is just a long list of things where overconfidence has led me into trouble, and then you stumble through the trouble and it works out good at the end, which is important to that's why I try and do things that I enjoy, because you have to go through the pain, and you have to often naivety and bravery are the same thing. Even joining Finimize, when I joined Finimize, I'd never done community before. There's a great example of being overconfident. And come in and say I'll lead the community team and build us into a community-led business and come up with a strategy. There's a great example, and it was really hard, really, really hard, and it led me through a lot of trouble. But we've come out the other side, and I can't think of another thing that I enjoy and I'm engaged in that hasn't followed that same process.
Do you like this song, Trouble, trouble, trouble.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Try not to listen to it.
Once you're tweeted, my mom will be so proud. So, when was the last time she told you that?
Um, really trying to remember what that tweet was about. When was the last time my mum told me she was proud? It was on my wedding day, which was, when was that? April.
Did you cry?
Did I cry? No, I didn't. I laughed. I think it was followed with, we never expected you to do this.
Did you prepare? Okay, for how long did you prepare for your wedding?
For how long did I prepare? Well, not that long. Because, you know, there was this, I read this stat that there were more weddings in England last year than either there ever has been or for like 30, 40, 50 years. Because of all the pandemic build up, and so you sort of had this overhang of weddings, and then you had the relationships that formed during lockdown. We managed to dodge all that. So I guess it was like, I don't know, 6 months to a year.
Not that fast, frankly speaking, but yeah. How did you decide that you want to marry your wife?
Wow. I don't know. You just, I don't know. It seemed like a good idea. Yeah, it seemed like a good idea. I liked her then, and I like her now. That's probably enough for me.
What was it like? You woke up and I have to do it, or it was like, what ice cream do you like? Okay, this ice cream. And by the way, would you marry me?
I don't know. There's sort of, there's a snowball effect where you think, you know, this is now the right thing to do, I guess. But I'm a big fan of ice cream. It's like recently I've really started to get into it. I even tweeted about it the other day. Last night, I think I tweeted about it. I'm a big fan of ice cream.
You tweeted,
so it could well have been in that conversation.
You tweeted the Mars ice cream is the best ice cream. So what is your favorite ice cream? Is it the Mars?
Well, it is the Mars ice cream, because there's a few reasons for that, and I've been going back and forth with quite a few people on this recently. I think flavor wise, there's this Lotus Biscoff ice cream. The white chocolate one is phenomenal. As an ice cream, it's absolutely amazing. It's got the crunch, it's white chocolate, but it's got caramel. Like, the ice cream is really smooth. They do a small version if you just want a snack. But it's expensive, and it's pretty high in calories. Whereas the Mars ice cream remains super cheap. It's sweet, it's delicious, but still maintains a low calorie base. But I've been through a lot recently. A lot of ice creams, not personally and emotionally. Been through a lot of ice creams recently, and I just keep coming back to it. I keep going back to it. It's better than the actual Mars one.
Yeah, but you told that you didn't like ice cream a lot before. So what made you consume it more?
I don't know. Have you found sort of pandemic has brought out weird hobbies and behaviors that have changed?
Was it like you were sitting, watching a movie and eating a big bunch of ice cream with a big spoon?
No, it wasn't. Watching Bridget Jones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, sadly it wasn't. Actually, I'll tell you what sparked it. I've just moved into a new house, and it's the first time I've ever had a freezer. So now I've got this freezer I can get. Like, it's opened up a whole new world. So that's actually what sparked it. So I was getting every ice cream that possibly good from the supermarket, and kind of mentally benchmarking the experience and the quality of the goods. And it's been a few months of that now, so I can confidently say that I think the Mars ice cream is the number one.
So you are not usually eating one ice cream, you preparing with a lot of them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I need to, and then I've got quite a addictive personality, so I'll go through fads. So I'll probably be off ice creams in a couple of weeks, and then jump onto something else.
In the podcast with David Spinks, you told that you are a big fan of burgers. Are you still a big fan of burgers?
Yes, I'm a big fan of burgers. I did, that was a tough question. That was a tough question.
Yeah.
I would still like if it was all food, then I would still like burgers are my number one thing because I think you need something to benchmark, and everywhere normally does. Every restaurant normally has a burger, so it's quite good. And I'm big into condiments. So really into mayonnaise is probably one of my favorite foods. And burgers, you can fill them with condiments. So yeah, I'm still into burgers.
Do you have a favorite place where you like having burgers?
Not really. London's got a very good burger scene. So most places are pretty good. I think that was my point around the burgers. There's no such thing to me really as a bad burger, because a bad burger I still like. It's just more, it's a bit like wine. Like it's not about having a favorite wine. It's about what is the occasion that you're going to, and what is the right burger to suit that occasion. If you're in a fine dining restaurant, have a fine dining burger. If you're sat on the seaside and there's a burger van, then that's also a great burger in itself.
Not the burger itself, but with who and where.
There you go.
What do you think about McDonald's?
As a brand or as the burger?
As a burger and ice cream.
Well, the burger, I don't know about the ice cream because I haven't had one. But the burgers, I think, again, they serve a purpose. And it's a bit like, the sound when you open a can of Coke when you're really thirsty, you're really hot. I think there's a moment in life where the McDonald's burger has the same calling to you, where you're like, look, I feel awful, and I need to go to McDonald's.
Do you remember when you said to yourself, yeah, I love burgers?
Probably the David Spinks podcast, but I hadn't thought about it too long. No. I feel like my community career is now going to be defined by my diet.
Definitely, but who knows? You never know. So, how do you use your gut feel?
How do I use my gut feel? At work, I find it's like we have it as one of our mantras of like, listen to the data but follow your gut. And I think that has always held true. And your gut feel gets better with experience. Because I think when you're building a startup, it's really important that you make decisions fast. And I think there's always, there's 100 decisions that you need to make. Like 75 of those options will probably be all right, So it's like, how do you make sure that you're not making a bad decision? So I'm really into making really, really quick judgment-based calls. And I think following your gut is a good one, but you have to pair it with some kind of data to make sure that you're really focusing in the right areas and you're picking the right area to focus on sort of in the battle. So yeah, that's how I would follow my gut.
If you need to take a super fast decision and you have like less than 1 hour, do you have some kind of boundaries like, okay, I need 15 minutes to look at the data and then I will do it like immediately? Or you just, how it usually works for you in general, this communication with data and gut?
It's different every time because sometimes you haven't even got an hour. Sometimes you've got to make a quick decision in 15 minutes. So I think it's about understanding the range of expected outcomes, understanding what are we genuinely trying to achieve here. And then, understanding what your options are. And then once those three things align, the decision itself normally becomes pretty self-apparent.
What was the best decision you made super fast? Don't talk about your wife. We won't show her this podcast.
Best decision I made super fast. Well, again, like joining Finimize was a really quick decision for me. I think that was a pretty aligning your core principles of those core principles. Like, look, what's my goal? Is this a company that I believe in? Am I going to enjoy working there? Yes. Okay, do it. And I think, one of the values I've always had, or one of my principles is always not to worry about anything, because if there's something that you can do about what you're worrying about, then do it. If there isn't something you can do, then there's no point worrying about it. And I think that sort of mindset just helps me be really action focused and not worry about anything ever.
Do you still worry about something?
Not really, because either if it's important enough for me to worry about, then I'll do something to solve that problem. If it's not important enough for me to worry about, I won't worry about it. And if it's something that's going to happen that I can't have an impact on, then whatever. It's cool. We'll roll with the punches.
In the community-led growth show, you told, I would see where people flourish, where they enjoy, what are they really great at, and just really focus down and hone in on that. How to feel people as you do?
You've watched a lot of my stuff. It's cool. And it's nice because that aligns with everything we're saying today. How do you get a sense for someone? I think it comes down to, I was very lucky to have my boss in my old company would mentor me and help me. And he always said that an engaged team comes down to three things: mastery, autonomy, and purpose. I think it's a concept borrowed from the gaming industry. And mastery is, am I improving at something? Autonomy is, am I in control of what I'm doing? Am I deciding what I'm doing? And then purpose is, do I know this big goal that I'm contributing towards? So those are the three things I'm normally trying to identify, because you can't, back to what's in your control, you can't change that for someone. And when you get people at their best is when they feel secure, when they feel like, they're in control, when they feel like they're contributing to something that they care about. So identifying those things, what is it that you want to get better at? And maybe that's now, maybe in 3 years, what is that thing that you want to get better at? And then we can put things in place to make sure that you're getting better at those things. Autonomy is okay, well, instead of it saying, look, here's what you need to do, and can you come back to me when it's done? You ask the question of well, here's the goal. How are you going to go about it? What do you need to be successful in this? And then the idea is coming from that person. And then with the purpose, for me, it's all about aligning, where do you want to be 5 years from now? And we'll keep checking in on that, because that changes. I hate that question of where do you want to be in 5 years? I don't know. What it means is in that moment of where you want to be in 5 years, you're aligned on, okay, the work I'm doing towards today is working towards the bigger purpose. And then same with the company. It's look, here's the company's purpose. Here's where we're going to go. And how do you fit into that? So that's normally what I look for. And I think if you get it right, it's really hard to do, but if you do get it right, your team, and this is true of community as well, if you do this with your members, your team and your members will outperform any idea that you ever could come up with on your own. So yeah.
How do you make people trust you from the first sight?
So I think trust is all about consistency. You know, when people don't trust you is when, you know, say we have a relaxed conversation here, and then next time I meet you, I'm like really intense and you know, really direct and really forward. And then the next time, you know, I'm really laid back, and like those are the things where people don't really, like if you're an aggressive person and you show up to every single meeting aggressive, I can still trust you because I know what you're going to be like, and I know it's you, I know it's authentic. But it's when people are sort of flick around, you know, left, right, center. So I think consistency is really important. And I think the only way you can do that is by just being authentic and being as open and transparent as possible. I think as soon as you try and, you know, get an outcome or try and, I read a book last summer. Sorry, this is a tangent, but you got me thinking. I read a book last summer by Marcus Aurelius. And it's all about first principle thinking. And like one of the principles that really sat with me during that was, if everyone else did what you're doing, is that a net positive for society? And I think that's a really good guiding principle when you're trying to, like, if you're trying to lead a team or you're trying to build trust. It's like, okay, if everyone else was acting like I'm acting, does that create a good environment or does it create a bad environment? So, you know, if I'm, you know, talking behind someone's back and then saying it to someone else, and if everyone did that, it creates chaos. Whereas if I'm transparent, honest, and as open as possible about what I'm thinking and how I'm making decisions, well, if everyone did that, then I think we could be in a really good place. So yeah, I think back to this, like, to answer your question about how you build trust, is like, be consistent and just be transparent and authentic.
Have you ever done something that won't, you know, go through this question?
Yeah. Yes. And I think that's when you learn, right? Like, and it happens all the time. That's why it's so important to keep getting feedback from people, and like people that you work with, people you work for, people that work for you, everyone, just to kind of check in and like, look, how am I doing? So I think it's something that you have to consistently challenge and consistently remind yourself, because I don't think anyone can do that 100% of the time.
You wrote recently that you can't hack community. What else in the life you can't hack?
Good question. Fitness. Annoyingly. Fitness. You can't, from someone that's very unfit, you can't hack that. And, you know, happiness. It's cliche, but it's a very hard thing to hack.
What is happiness for you?
I guess it's the lack of not being happy. Do you know what I mean? It's like trying to think, you know, like there are times when you're so engaged and excited by what you're doing, you literally go to bed thinking about things. And you wake up in the morning just enthused and engaged and excited. In anything, like family, relationship, work, holiday, whatever. So back to this gut feel, I think, yeah, you sort of have a gut sense of when you're happy. And I think the times that you're not happy are normally when you're not in control, you're doing something that you don't actually want to do, you're doing it because someone else told you. So trying to eliminate as much of those things as possible.
Have you ever named your gut feel spider sense?
No.
What music do you like?
Oh, I love music. I love all music. I've always been into new music. So I'm one of those people that sort of actively tries to find, discover, and curate new artists and new music. But yeah, there's no one genre.
How do you discover a new music?
So recently, I've been lazy and I use Spotify's algorithm. And I think it slowly is tuning in to the fact that I like new music. So it's serves up some pretty good stuff. So I'll normally listen to music all day, and then if there's something I like, I'll swipe it into my like list. But there's also like Six Music in the UK radio station is amazing. And then just sort of through artists, their own networks is another great way to find cool and interesting stuff.
Do you ask your friends to advise you what to listen to?
I guess so. That's like one of the first questions that you ask. That have you heard any new music lately, or like what are you listening to? You know, what are you watching? What are you listening to? Yeah, I guess so.
When do you listen to it?
When do I listen to music? Well, pretty much all day when I'm working from home. I've started collecting vinyls. And I love cooking. So when I'm working and when I'm cooking, I'm normally listening to music at home.
What is the main difference between like listening to the music on the phone and listening to vinyls?
I guess you can't skip. I love that about not being able to skip, because I've got such a hyperactive mind that I'll just, if it's me on Spotify, I normally can tell if I'm going to like a song with about 15, 30 seconds, and I'll just be like, next. But with a vinyl, you're stuck. you're in it, you've got to be near it because you've got to turn it over. But I think that you end up building a deeper appreciation. But I think vinyls would be a terrible way to discover new music. A very expensive way to go through like 100 vinyls a week just to discover new music. So I've normally built the sense of whether I like something on Spotify, but move it into vinyl after.
And when you buy some of them, is it something you already love, or how do you decide what to buy?
Yeah, normally it's something that I'm into that I think will mean something to me in 20, 30, 40 years. And my dad always had this huge vinyl collection, and it was all about, you know, when people came around or when I would start getting interested in music, it was always about like the stories of why he liked it and what was culturally going on at that time. Because there's an amazing link between, like, I think people start to do this. If you go back through I don't know if you use Spotify, but I've got liked songs on Spotify now for about 6, 7, 8 years. And if you start going back through that, you hear a song and you're like, wow, that has just taken me back to the holiday I was on in 2019, or like, and it's got an amazing way of bringing really rich memories together. And I love that around music. So I try and do the same with vinyls, and that you can grab those memories and attach them to anything. You know, whether it is a birthday or whether it is, you know, a gig that you went to with your friends in another country, or, you know, whatever that is. I think music is a really good way for your brain to organize thoughts and make those memories quite rich.
Do you see yourself like in 20 or 30 years with a glass of wine or a glass of cognac, taking all this and like, oh, let's remember what it was about, like in the movies?
Yeah, in like 20, 30 minutes, more than 20, 30 years. But yeah, honestly, like I do that a lot. I try and do that a lot. But yeah, totally.
Do you have a mentor?
So I wouldn't say I've got a mentor in a formal sense. I actually never found it that useful. on both sides. Like even for me, mentoring people, I think is what's actually better is a network of people that are smarter than you and more experienced than you in different areas that you can call on when you need them. What I've found with that, and I've got some amazing people like that for some reason I don't know are willing to help me when I need help. Normally they've been through something that I'm going through. And, you know, it's amazing how someone can just instantly make you step back and reconsider like how to think through a problem. But I've got so much value out of those relationships I have. And I would recommend that more than having a mentor relationship. As soon as someone says to you, like, can you be my mentor? There's instantly this fear of like, whoa, well, what? I can't teach you anything. And then how much time is this going to take? And what normally happens is the first 2 sessions are good. And then by the 3rd and 4th, you're just like, hey, how's it going? Whereas I think if you have ad hoc relationships, where it's not formalized as mentorship, but it's a network of people that care about you, the skill is to then be really great at getting feedback. So I've got a few people that I'll call when I've got a big problem I'm trying to solve or think through. I'll just call them, say like, hey, look, here's what I'm going through. What do you think? And then they might say 1 or 2 things. I won't speak to them again for 6 to 12 months, but I would have followed through on what they've said. And that becomes a really rich relationship because then it becomes very casual. They know I'm going to run off and actually go and action what they've said. And then we'll have something to revisit when we get back. Yeah, that's the most efficient way I've found.
How do you feel about giving advice?
There's a great quote by Michael Caine. I think it's by Michael Caine on Parkinson. That is, there's a reason that advice is free. You know, there's because if it was worth something, I'd charge you for it. So personally, I love it. I love giving advice. I just don't know how valuable it is. I think the real value is more in helping people discover that there is no answer to the question you're looking for. And that can be frustrating for people sometimes. So yeah, I find coaching more useful than giving people advice. But I'll give anyone advice. I just don't know whether they should listen to it or not.
What is the difference between coaching and mentoring for you?
I think it's questions rather than answers. Like coaching is having a set number of questions and knowing when to ask the right questions. A bit like you're doing now. You know, knowing when there are times where people can think through things themselves and what are the right questions to unlock that and help them get out of their own head. I find that to be way more valuable. And there are times where you just need an answer to something. And it's like, stop asking me what I would do if someone else was in the same situation. Just tell me what to do. And that's where, you know, maybe that's where you can add more value with advice. But yeah, that's the difference, I would say.
And just to finish this part, what does mentoring mean to you?
I think it's about paying it forward and giving someone a leg up, which is really important because a lot of, like, take the workplace, for example. There's a lot of, like, if you want to encourage new people coming into the workforce, there's so much value in people that have done it before. I'm thinking of like grad schemes is a really good example. If your dad or your older brother or your mum or your older sister has been through the grad scheme process, they will coach you through that thing and you will come out as a top candidate. If you've got no idea what that is, you're stuffed. You've got you have to be in the top 1% to even get a chance. And you have to work so much harder. So I think it's about trying to redress that balance a little bit. So for me, that's where mentoring can really help. Is like, let's try and open this up for more people and get rid of like the backdoor entry that people have to success.
How do you like to spend your holidays?
I don't like summer holidays. That's a good question. I've gone quite a few. It's one of our favourite pastimes is going on holiday. Um, I'm not very good at sitting still on a beach. I'm getting better. I'm not very good at sitting still on a beach. So I like to do things. And back to this like vinyl point, right? Like I love actively trying to make memories that are gonna be rich. So we'll try and go somewhere that has culture behind it, and we'll try and eat their food. We'll try and experience their local music, and we'll try and do it in a way where you're like, wow, this is something very special. And I've done that in quite a few places like this, like Estonia. I went to Estonia recently last year, and it was phenomenal. Like, the food was unreal. Like the view was amazing. We went to see one of my favorite bands out there, and all of that. Like, you're coming back. I feel like I come back with a real rich memory of that place, and sort of a bit more of an understanding of where that place is, rather than sitting in a nice hotel or sitting on the beach.
What is your favorite band?
Well, I don't know about my favorite, but the band that I've seen the most live are a band called Jungle. I'm actually seeing them this Saturday. How sad. But they're the people that I went to see in Estonia. I just think they're a fantastic live band. Do you know them?
Not. I guess no. I guess not.
I'll
but
have to send you. I'll send you the link.
send
You'll
me
love
the
it.
link. I will definitely listen, and you can count on my feedback after it, for sure. When you discover new places, do you have some kind of a plan, or you just go and do whatever you want?
Yeah, always plan. Like, I'm always trying to optimize for like the best experience possible. So yeah, I'm the guy that will send in, look, we've got to eat at this place. We've got to go visit this place. We've got to go and see this bar, and I'll make sure I've spoken to people that know what they're talking about first.
So it's all about asking people or Googling.
It's community, man. It's the best way to find anything. If you want to go and eat somewhere, find the chefs that are from that place. Like, we went to San Sebastian and managed to get hold of, through some friends of mine, like some chefs that are from that area. They know where to eat. I'm to go through community first, rather than subjecting yourselves to Google's algorithm. Word of mouth.
I believe one day Google will die.
Yeah.
Because people will turn to communities. So.
Yeah, we hope.
How do you feel about the word lurker?
So did I write a tweet saying love your lurkers? Is that where this has come from? Because that sounds like I went through a phase last year of really, really, going into detail and thinking at work around the value of lurkers. And it happened because I like to use NPS a lot. So we'll survey our members and get their feedback. And it was sending me crazy because our lurkers were giving like amazing NPS scores. And when you're a community manager, one of your jobs is to drive engagement. And then it was like this light bulb moment for me. It was like, they're happy. Why? And if anything, the NPS will go down if you force them to engage. So yeah, that was a bit of a light bulb moment for me. It was like, look, your lurkers, they're getting value. You don't have to worry and stress yourself out. And then I think focus on the 10% of people who are there to engage and are there to participate and are there to show up.
Do you feel this boundary between engaging enough and engaging too much?
Can you engage too much? Yeah, but I think that's exactly what a community professional does, is that they create these boundaries or they create rules and formulas so that if you want to participate a lot, here's the way that you can do that. and it's different for it's so different for every platform. But you can imagine if you're in a group chat and one person is posting 100 times a day and 99 other people are deathly silent, normally they're not posting because they feel like that guy's got it covered. So yeah, technically you can, but a good community manager will hopefully figure that out.
Do you use acronyms while chatting? I mean, like IRL instead of in real life, or AFK instead of away from keyboard?
Yeah. Only if it's natural. I don't try and over-index, but yeah, like community building again is back to this trust and being authentic. If I start writing in perfect English, people are just gonna be like, "Who the hell is this robot?" So, and sometimes, there's a benefit to throwing in mistakes in there, not on purpose, but like if you ever see that you do put mistakes out, people are like, "Okay, this person's human." Yeah.
What is your favorite acronym?
What is my favorite acronym? I like "if you know, you know." Looks good. I just think it looks cool.
Yeah. How do you prevent burnout?
So it's something that we try and actively manage in our team, and it's something that I think I would say is actually particularly bad in community, because if you're managing a community, so you hire someone that's empathetic, really cares about people, and then you give thousands of people access to them 24/7, they're going to really struggle to switch off at the weekends. They're going to really struggle to switch off when they go on holiday. And there's just a never-ending amount of requests, and they're incentivized to try and meet all of those requests on an ongoing basis. So, in terms of managing, at the moment, we just try and create a culture. It's probably something I need to get better at, but we try and create a culture where you manage your own burnout. And as long as you feel like you can say, like, "Look, I'm burning out a bit here," and we can educate on what the signs of that are, then positively encouraging, like, just take some time off, come back fresh, and let's check in on how you're doing. But I think if you're leading a community team, it's something you should actively manage and check in on, maybe monthly. But if you can create a culture where people are like, I think I might be burning out, that's good. And then other parts are sort of looking forward. If you can see that someone's got a big platform change, or a huge conference is being organized, or there's just something big coming down the line, it's like, look, keep an eye on this. Don't push yourself too hard till it comes. I don't know if you've ever been on the team that runs a conference, whether in person or virtual, but it's exhausting. Like, by the end of the day, you've been on camera all day, you've been speaking all day, you've been having to keep up the best form of yourself to speak to people and introduce people, and you've got to keep an idea of the logistics. It's so exhausting. So that during a period like that, we'll try and let people take some time off, completely clear your diaries, make sure you're ready for this, because it's going to be a physical exertion.
I even noticed that after hosting a big conference, I myself get ill. So because I spend so much energy
100%.
that
100%. And then also, selfishly, if you're trying to run a business, what is the point in having people that are burnt out and tired and exhausted? Because you can make that such a positive experience. But like you said, if look, I normally get a bit ill because I'm giving this 110% of me, then you just see it coming, and then there's things that you can manage. I think if you haven't been through that and you're leading people, maybe you underestimate how difficult it is or how taxing it is. I think if you have been through that, you can kind of let people know that it's a rough physical exercise being a community manager.
Yeah, I totally agree. Have you had big burnout yourself?
Me? Not that I can remember massively. I think there's definitely been times where you have to sort of pick yourself up a bit. But I don't think I don't think I would be able to claim that I've suffered massively from burnout. Fingers crossed.
How do you learn?
How do I learn? It's a community. Honestly, I think it's like the only way I learn anything is by doing. So I will normally. We actually built Finimize a bit in this way as well. Like, so let's say a language. Let's say if I was trying to learn a language, you can either go to classes and study the grammar, learn a dictionary, practice your vocabulary. For me, it would always be just throw yourself in that country, cut yourself off from everyone else, and just figure it out. And I think if you have a community of other people that are going on through that process as well, that for me is the best way to learn. That's how I've learned everything, really, is sort of throw yourself in at the deep end, figure it out, and then find ways to practice actively with the thing you're trying to do. What I've just never been able to do is learn something learn something practical from a book is very difficult. But as long as I'm actively doing the task that I'm trying to get better at, and then bringing in ideas from outside, I think that normally works.
Do you speak any other language more than English?
Not really. I'm really bad at Spanish. Really bad. If that helps. I'm bad enough that if I'm on holiday in Spain, I can probably get a seat at a table. But beyond that,
by singing Despacito.
Yeah. And when I say getting a seat at a table, that's me being overconfident as well. They've probably got no idea what I'm saying. But yeah, I can speak a bit of Spanish, but that's it.
Would you like to master it?
Not really. I'm not really someone that masters things. I'm more jack of all trades, get good enough at things. I'm not really like cooking. I love cooking. I've got no interest in becoming a chef. I like being good enough to experiment and have fun at home. That's normally my approach to most things. I think the point of getting to mastery is like that final 10% is so much harder than the first 90%. So maybe it's because I'm lazy, but I'd rather spend my time in that first phase.
What is your favorite dish to cook?
Good question. Favorite dish. So I make a banging carbonara. It's very good. And then maybe, I'd say pasta. So a carbonara or I make a very good ragu.
I hope sometime to taste it.
Yeah, I'll send you some. I'll send you some music and I'll send you a carbonara.
Okay, deal. I wish to have the sky as a limit to our conversation, but time is the limit. So let's jump to the rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Slack or WhatsApp?
WhatsApp. I love WhatsApp.
Do or think first?
Do.
What are your favorite color and song?
My favorite color at the moment is green. And my favorite song at the moment is like Bob Dylan, Don't Think Twice, It's All Right. I'm listening to that a lot.
If you were a superhero, what superpower would you have?
Reading people's minds.
Name 2 people from the community world who you advise me to interview next.
Well, you've interviewed one. It was the person that I always have a go-to on this is Rosie Sherry. Who else should you speak to? There are so many. I would say Evan Hamilton, who's just joined HubSpot. He would be I'd be very interested as to what he has to say.
Got it. Is there one question that I definitely should have asked you but didn't?
No, you covered ground that I've never been interviewed on before. So no, there isn't.
Cool. Okay, so Max, thank you very much. It's so awesome to meet you, and you are so smiley person, you know. I laugh a lot with you, so thank you very much for this great, amazing amount of love and good conversation. I'm super happy. Thank you very much.
Good. Very good.
So have an amazing day and see you somewhere in the community world. I guess we'll
I'll see you in the community world. Bye-bye. Thanks, Yuri.